So, we're finally doing it. All right, we're finally doing it. We are. I'm gonna keep the pinned message up so people know what to expect. What's going on with the screen capture? Why is this frozen? God damn it. Is it frozen for you guys too? Hello? It looks frozen to me. Hello? Guys, I need some feedback. Is it frozen? It's frozen. Fuck, how do I fix this? I literally don't know how to fix this outside of restarting stream, but I feel like that would be not good. I really don't want to do that. Shit. Okay, does anyone know how to unfreeze this? Any takers, any ideas here? Okay, I've got something. I'm gonna try something. Hold on. Let's try adding a video capture device. You guys don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Shit. I don't think this one has happened in a long time. I don't think it's ever gotten frozen. What the fuck do I do? Okay. Let's try doing this. Alright. Okay, I think this could work. Is it working? What did I do? It's working. It looks like it's working. Alright, I did it. Yeah? Yeah? You guys can see me, right? I'm in a corner up here, is what I'm seeing. And then down here, I still see me. Okay, you know what? Let's get rid of the other me. We only need one of me, right? Okay, so let's do... How do I do this? Okay. Let's expand this. Wait, why is it not taking up the full screen? Why is it... What the fuck? Why is it not... How do I make it take up the full screen? Does anyone know how to do this? What if... Okay. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Morj reacting to Morj. We're gonna avoid this issue for now, because I'm just gonna pull up Microsoft Paint. All right, I'm gonna pull up Microsoft Paint. Then I'm going to do this, but I'm gonna replace this bottom thing with this. Watch this. All right, so that's here, and now this is here. And now we're pretty much good. All right, guys. Solved. Pretty much. Pat Galley says, just restart, bro. No, that's the mark of a quitter. We don't do that. GeForce Game Ready driver is available. Good to know. All right. FPS King Gaming says, Morj actually a boomer. A boomer? Did you guys not watch me figure this shit out live in real time? The Void Month has created NBA Morj. Alright, here's the plan. Sleeping Dangerous says paint already, we moving fast. Yeah, I guess when the entire stream starts crashing, that forces me to actually switch over to the main topic of the stream. Here's the plan, guys. Alright? First of all, let's get the stream likes to 100. Okay, let's get the stream likes to 100. Secondly, actually, I've heard that secondly is not a word. Is that crazy to anybody else? I've heard that secondly is not a real word. No, I guess secondly is a word. Someone once told me, and they were a lawyer, so I believed them, that secondly is not a real word. Sanjeev, thanks for the 5. Rate this list. Jokic, Curry, Giannis, Luka. Reminder that before Kyrie joined the Mavs, were like 4th in the West. Tatum, KD, LeBron, Jimmy, AD, and Embiid. I have the same top 10, just a slightly different order. Oh, no, I don't have AD in my top 10. Who do I have instead? I have Kawhi in there. Here's the deal. If I were to rate that list, I think it's pretty solid. I think once you get outside of like the top 3, it's kind of hard to decide. I think the top 3 for most people should be Jokic, Giannis, Steph. I think Giannis should be at least in people's top 3. I think Jokic should at least be in people's top 2. I think those are guarantees, and I feel like Steph should be in most people's top 3, in my opinion. Guys, here's how we're doing it, all right? Okay, so for this break month, who knows what normally happens on Thursdays on break weeks? Somebody answer. Who knows what normally happens on Thursdays when there's no chapter? Pat Galley, thanks for the 5. Morj, give me a P.O. box or something, and I'll give you my PS4 with Bloodborne on it if you play it on stream during this break. Ooh. But I don't want to play it on stream, though. Pat Galley, I would love to take you up on that. Wait, were you the person who messaged me on Twitter? That somebody added me on Twitter like a while back saying that they would be fine sending me a PS4. I completely forgot to respond to them. Were you that person? Was it you? That person didn't require me to play it on stream. I just completely forgot to respond to them. I also don't know how I feel, because I'm just like, well, just sending me a PS4, I don't know. That's really nice. That's very, very, very nice. I would really appreciate that. I just feel a little weird about it, I guess. If you're fine sending it, you're fine sending it. But I don't want to play it on stream, because that ruins the game for me. Because then it becomes, I don't know, people are watching me, I have to be talking or entertaining or something like that. Do you guys remember, I played Sekiro? So when I played Sekiro, right, and this is a game I've already beaten. So I'm playing Sekiro, and I do Ishin first. So I play Ishin, right, beat him, I'm feeling pretty good. I look at chat, and people are like, oh, Morj doesn't talk. He's not talking. Morj isn't good at at multitasking. You're supposed to be talking while you're doing this. I'm like, fuck. Okay. I guess I'm supposed to be talking. That's fine. So then I play Demon of Hatred, and I died to Demon of Hatred like 4 times before I beat him because I'm trying to interact with chat at the same time, and it's just hard. I remember I was trying to give like a spiel about Chopper and how Chopper's changed post-time skip. It's just fucking hard to do that while you're playing a game. But it appears that people want entertainment at the same time as I'm playing the game. It just ruins the game for me. It's the same reason I don't stream react One Piece chapters. I like reading One Piece chapters in a very specific manner. I like, how do I say this? I guess I just like being as comfortable as possible because for me, it's something fun, right? So I don't want to be sitting at a desk with a microphone in front of me, figuring out tech issues and stuff like that. I want to be in bed or on a couch, just relaxed, and maybe I've got like a snack or something like that, enjoying a chapter. You know what I mean? So same thing for Bloodborne. I'm not going to play, there's no games that I'm going to play that I've never played before and ruin my first experience by playing it on stream. JP, thanks for being a member for 2 months. Enjoyed those Mihawk fans getting rabid with you? We could talk about that in a second. That's funny. The Mihawk fans thing. I'm actually confused. So I'm lost whether they're Mihawk fans or Zoro fans. We'll see. We'll talk about that in a second. Here's what happens on Thursdays normally when there's a break week, all right? Normally when there's a break week, what happens on Thursdays is nothing. I don't stream. Because as you know, Mondays are my variety One Piece streams, so that's when we do tier lists, general discussions, predictions, theories, etc. And then Thursdays, what do? Chapter discussions, once the chapter comes out. If there is no chapter that week, I do nothing. We're in a unique situation right now where we have 5 weeks of nothing to do on Thursdays. So, I figure I'll keep Mondays the same, talk One Piece. Thursdays, maybe I'll do a One Piece stream. Maybe I'll do a variety stream like this. I don't know. Let's see how this one goes over and if people enjoy it. The reason I'm doing this is because for the longest time, people complained I'm talking NBA during chapters, One Piece discussion, etc. People literally were saying, why don't you just do a separate stream for NBA? We've got time. We've got a month. So, yeah, let's do one of these. Aka Cow, thanks for the 5. Morj, last stream you said you hope I get fired so I can watch the streams, and since then the vibes at work have been so weird, LMAO. I'm sorry, dude. Try hard at work. Don't get fired because of me. Have a good stream. This is not a good time to get fired. Actually, what's interesting is I had several friends who... I think in the span of the same few months, I think 3-4 months span, they were all, I had several friends who were laid off and not because of any of their faults, because they were good at their jobs and stuff. It's just the way that companies are having to cut things and stuff right now. But in the last month or so, I think pretty much all of them have been able to pick up a new job that I think they're all enjoying. So I don't really know what the real world, I suppose, work environment is like at the moment. But I do understand that lots of companies, especially tech companies, are having to make cuts. But it seems like, I don't even know I'm explaining all of this to you. Don't lose your job. Just do your best to keep your job. Fatingo, thanks for the 5. I've never in my life seen a single NBA match. That's, I could tell because they're called NBA games. But listening you talk about it while having zero shred of context is surprisingly interesting. One thing I will promise is that I will be telling you guys everything in One Piece terms, because that's what somebody requested before this stream started. Everything in One Piece terms, that's for sure. As for the Mihawk fans got really mad from the last video. For the record, Mihawk is the world's, I think we can all agree Mihawk's the world's strongest swordsman. I didn't realize it was so controversial to say that Zoro will have a stronger opponent after Mihawk, in my opinion. And the simple solution to that is that the person that he fights just wouldn't be, just a swordsman, right? They'd be just, if it's the Gorosenu's Juro, we can see he's got, a mythical zone, so he's probably got all sorts of abilities and stuff like that. I didn't realize that would be so controversial. Because a lot of people are like, no, Mihawk has to be Zoro's final opponent and his strongest opponent. I'm like, why does he have to be his final opponent and his, both of those things just don't make sense to me. He could be his strongest pure swordsman opponent. I think that makes sense. But I don't think it makes sense for him to be his final opponent at all, because it just doesn't, the final battle, I think most people are on board. It seems like everything's set up to be against the Celestial Dragons, which means Mihawk has to lose first to Zoro. Which means that's pretty much Zoro fights somebody else after Mihawk. I don't think that's that crazy. And for the final opponent to be stronger, well, that's usually just how shit goes, right? You just I don't even know what to say. It's like, would you be excited if King was weaker than Pika, or if Mihawk was weaker than King? This stuff, it's just natural progression. It's true that not every arc the next opponent is stronger than the previous opponent, but that's usually only the case in sort of side arcs or build-up arcs. If you look at every major arc in One Piece, so you look at Arlong Park, that's the first major arc in One Piece, conclusion to East Blue. Hachi is a stronger opponent for Zoro than anybody in East Blue, right? Next one, Alabasta. Mr. One is a stronger opponent than anybody else Zoro's faced before. The next major arc is Enies Lobby. Kaku is a stronger opponent than anyone Zoro faced before that. Next major arc, I would say, is probably, because Thriller Bark's more of a side arc, mini arc. Next major arc is probably, honestly, I guess you could say Fishman Island, and obviously Hyozo's stronger there. Then after that, Dressrosa, Pika's stronger than Hyozo. Then after that's Wano, King is stronger than Pika, etc. It's just, I have a very, very hard time imagining Zoro fights Mihawk, and then in the final battle of the entire series, the most important one, the most epic one, etc., Zoro's just getting a weaker opponent than someone he already beat. I don't personally get it. I figure if you're a Zoro fan, wouldn't you want him to fight an even stronger opponent? I don't know. People had a major issues with that. I think that I didn't help by being very deliberately insightful. Not insightful as in very clever, observant, astute, but insightful as in inciting things. INCITE. Is that actually a word? Insightful. Insightful. I don't think insightful is actually a word. No, it is a word. Yeah, it is a word. But you guys get what I'm saying. I don't think there's much to discuss on that, other than I guess I learned that people are very, very attached to Zoro versus Mihawk being Zoro's final and most important, final and strongest opponent, to the point that a lot of people were saying that supersedes anything else in the story, such as the Celestial Dragon battle being the final conflict of the story, which is kind of crazy to me. But it's not a big deal in the long run. Haslan's just spamming LeBron. Okay, let me put the topic of the stream before I continue. Best NBA top 10 NBA players. What the fuck? You'd think I'd be better at Microsoft Paint at this point after having used it for so long, but it just doesn't really happen. I mostly stay about the same level. Who am I kidding? I'm great at Microsoft Paint today. What the fuck? Alright. So we got this going. Alright. Virgil Hawkins says you should play Untitled Goose Game. I don't know what that is. Tala, thanks for the 7. Odd how much hate you got for the Mihawk take. My Mihawk can't be endgame on power scaling subreddit over 2 months ago had most people agreeing. Twitter is a very different place because Twitter, you can't really talk in depth about things. I feel like if I'd been able to post a lengthy explanation of like, I think this, and this, then I think most people would have been on board with, or like a good number of people would have been on board with, yeah, Zoro probably fights someone after Mihawk. Whether or not you think that person is stronger than Mihawk, whether that person's a swordsman or something else, etc., that's going to be up for debate always. But I think usually if you just, like, because Twitter, it's snapshot. Like, it's just snap reactions to small statements, right? So if you're not thinking about it that much and then somebody says, oh, there's going to be someone stronger than Mihawk that Zoro fights, and you like Mihawk a lot, or you're personally attached to Zoro versus Mihawk, then your instinctive reaction is just going to be, well, I don't like this, right? So that's just the way that Twitter works, whereas, you know, something like Reddit, it's a longer, lengthier explanation, so there's more to respond to, you get more context, etc. Oh, Popa, thank you. Memes about Chainsaw Man pacing are real. What the fuck was 132, lol? 132, I actually couldn't believe it. I mean, just 2 chapters ago, we had a chapter where it was... Wait, 132 was the most recent Chainsaw Man chapter, right? There was a chapter which was like, just Denji on a motorcycle. And then, like, the arc ends. And I was like, what the fuck was that? I am interested to see how the rest of this arc, this new direction of Chainsaw Man plays out. I'm a little less hot on Chainsaw Man at the moment. And I think I've explained that a little bit in recent streams. Rujandoru, thanks for the 10. I put Steph at 4. Luka is slightly worse offensive player, but is a bigger, arguably better passer and finisher. Steph has a system around him that accentuates his greatness. Jokic, Giannis, Luka. Yeah, I mean, okay. When I said Jokic, Giannis, Steph should be top 3. I guess what I really mean is I feel like those 3 players should be towards the... I think Jokic and Giannis should be in everyone's top 3, pretty much. Jokic should not be lower than 2. Giannis, I could see people dropping him a few spots just depending on how much his abysmal performance to close out that Heat series really hurt him in your eyes. But I still feel like they should be towards the top. I feel like Steph should be towards the top. Then there's lots of players like, you could take, I think, someone like Luka, for example, and you could put him all over the board in that top 10 list. I think you could take KD or Jason Tatum and put him all over the board in that top 10 list. So I guess really what I mean, I think, is that Jokic, Giannis, Steph, I think those are 3 players that should be consensus towards the top for everybody. And then pretty much everybody else. Like, I could see some people still having Embiid at, like, number 3. I could see some people having Embiid towards the bottom of their top 10. You get what I'm saying? You guys get what I'm saying? Let's get... Oh, no, we got the Streamlights pretty good. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. Why do you think World Government Fight will come after Laugh Tale? I mean, I think that's the direction that Oda pretty much set out for us fairly clearly with Whitebeard's dying speech. I think it's pretty much clear that once you find the One Piece, or at least what the One Piece is, that's the trigger for the Great War. It's the same thing as Roger's journey, because Roger's journey was about getting to Laugh Tale. Then after getting to Laugh Tale, there was one final step that he couldn't do, which we can presume, based on everything that was said in Oden's notebook afterwards and what Roger himself said, was the last thing that needed to be done was basically Will of D taking down the world government, etc. So all steps, and it's just the same trajectory that the Strats are on right now, which is going to Laugh Tale, right? Everything they're doing so far is about getting to Laugh Tale. They're picking up the road poneglyphs, yada, yada, yada. So that seems to be the direction in the story that we're headed. And then the world government stuff is things that are brewing in the background. So it's the same as basically the trajectory that Whitebeard painted out for us. It's the same as the trajectory that Roger went on. It just seems as though Celestial Dragons are the end game. Not to mention the Celestial Dragons are At this, I feel like a little bit earlier you could have made the argument that Blackbeard probably is the final most imposing opponent. I think now that it's been established that Imu really is God and has ruled, like, he's strong, he has ability and everything, and he's got basically by far the most, like, back when it was just the admirals and the marines, you could make the case that, hey, maybe the Blackbeard pirates will be a bigger deal by the end. But now it's like the entire marine force that we used to think of as the most imposing military force in all of One Piece, right? Now we've realized, like, fairly clearly that that's just, you know, that's just their warm-up squad. Because beyond Akainu, forget Aokiji, Akainu, Kizaru, Green Bull, Fujitora, etc., take out Fujitora as well, but beyond those guys, right, and all the vice admirals, the pacifistas, etc., beyond that, they've got the real group, which is Im, Gorosei, Holy Knights, Seraphim, throw in CP0 in there. It's just, the armies of heaven are by far the most stacked force in the ocean at this moment in time, period. The FPS King Gaming, thanks for the 5. Play Hotline Miami. It's like the perfect gun game, the same way Sekiro is a perfect sword game. It's short and on sale right now. I don't like shooters, because I just didn't grow up playing shooters. I think, you know what's funny is, I think that one of the problems is, how do I say this? Shooters, because I didn't have an Xbox or a PlayStation growing up, and Nintendo doesn't really do shooters. I know nowadays they do Splatoon, but it's fucking Splatoon, right? I want to play Street Fighter. I forgot. I haven't downloaded that. How are people liking Street Fighter? Have people been playing that? That's a side note. For me, with shooters, because I grew up not having, you know, Xbox, PlayStation, you don't really get into shooters. Obviously, I had friends who like to play those games, but Halo, Call of Duty, etc. But when I went over to their houses, because it's not like, it was just not something that I felt like doing. So when they're like, what do you want to do? I would just never be like, yeah, let's like I played Halo some. I played Call of Duty more when my friends had it in college and stuff like that. I played some zombies and stuff like that. But in general, I just never really got into shooters. The only shooter I really got into, and it's not a real shooter, is Overwatch. In Overwatch, surprisingly, I did play a DPS character. I played Tracer. But that's largely because I got familiar with her movement enough that it made up for me not being the fastest in terms of, like, fast twitch reactions, I suppose, for aiming and shooting. So I think Tracer in Overwatch is literally the only shooting, like, experience that I enjoy in games. That's pretty much it. And Overwatch, I think, it's not a classic shoot. Like, it's not a real shooter at the end of the day, right? It's not CSGO. It's not Call of Duty. It's not something like that, right? So because I've never been playing, like, never played shooters, I just don't feel like getting into them at this point. You know what I mean? Schmike the Melks, thanks for the 2. Lord's doing anything but the Wano video at this point. No, just because I'm doing this stream means I'm not doing the Wano video? Come on now. Leave me alone. I'm doing the Wano video. Although I am stuck a little bit between, do I spend my time finishing out the Berserk video finally, or just working on the Wano video? I'm in a tough spot. Gabriel Lambert says my first fighting game and I'm addicted. I've always said this about Street Fighter, and why I've wanted to get into Street Fighter and not other games, not other fighting games, is because Street Fighter, it seems like it's closer to focusing on fundamentals over anything. So other fighting games, not to say that other fighting games don't, obviously, but what I mean is that other fighting games, they've got the assist system, so you're tagging in other characters and stuff like that, and you're swapping things out. Or maybe there's air dashing, like Guilty Gear and things like that. Street Fighter seems closer to what I just like about fighting games, which is very focused, more ABC, like rock, paper, scissors type interactions without as much flash or chaos going on. That's my understanding of Street Fighter. But I've only in terms of fighting games, I've only really played like Mortal Kombat, Injustice, Killer Instinct, so it's not like I'm a huge fighting game player or anything like that. And I know that those games aren't even really respected amongst the fighting game community. But I want to get into Street Fighter. Sanjeev, thanks for the 2. Read my message, too many characters for Super Chat. Where's your message? I don't know where it is. Let's see. Okay, so it seems like everyone's throwing out their top 10s. We can get into it in a second. Let's see. I literally don't see your message. How far back? Just post it again. I'll see if I can catch it. Leo Recto, thanks for the 2. Hey Morj, here for your weekly You Seen Spider-Verse. Oh, I want to see Spider-Verse so bad at this point because I keep seeing spoilers pop up on my timeline, and I'm like, man, I really don't want to get spoiled on this one. I really want to see Spider-Verse. Here's the Flash. Wait a second. Has anyone watched Black Mirror? Has anyone? Green MNTN says Mortal Kombat isn't respected. LMAO. I think as far as I understand, the recent ones aren't respected. That's what I've read online. That's not me saying it. That's just what I've read online. I don't know enough to really know whether it's a great fighting game or not. I personally really enjoyed it, but I don't have a ton to compare it to. Sanjeev says Jimmy is ridiculously high. I know he was an all-time insanely great in Milwaukee. He was in New York. He was in New York. Then after game 2 of the Celtics series for the rest of the playoffs. I don't like, to me, okay, so we're going to get to, I think Jimmy Butler is I think there's several players right now. How do I say this? All right, my overall take is that right now in the NBA is, for me, the hardest it has ever been to do like a top 10 ranking, period. I think right now it's the hardest it's been in my basketball watching experience. Several reasons. Biggest one being that when I was really getting into basketball, right, which was 2016 on, the top players were really established, and you could expect them to be about that same level year to year. Maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit lower, whatever. But the ruling era it was like LeBron's number 1. Most people got KD number 2. Then you got Steph. Then you got, I know nowadays the opinion has shifted more towards Steph better than KD, etc. I'm just saying at that point in time, you could kind of figure it out, right? Like you got LeBron, KD, Steph, Harden, not necessarily in that order or whatever, but you know the top players. Giannis started getting good. AD was always good then. Kawhi was always around. Yeah, basically there was a period of time where it was just like LeBron, AD, KD, Steph, Harden, Kawhi, Giannis. You're mixing and matching these players, but and Russell Westbrook before he kind of fell off a little bit. I'd say like closer to 2019, 2020. But Russell Westbrook was also considered a top 5-10 player basically around that time. I mean, he won MVP in 2017, right? So around that period of time, it was a very stable. You kind of knew who the top players were basically, and they were consistently the ones that were doing the best in the playoffs or the regular season or whatever. This is kind of a turning point where LeBron is clearly getting older. KD doesn't seem to be the same as he was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, he was sitting at home with a torn ACL. But, even as recent as like 2020 or 2021 in that Bucks series, right? KD hasn't been as dominant. Steph, I think, he's still got it mostly. He's still pretty much got it. But like, you can be like, well, maybe he's not quite as good as he was just last year or something, right? Maybe not quite. So you got those guys on their downturn. Then you've got guys like Luka. And same with Kawhi, right? So those are 4 players that are considered basically like the best from the previous generation that are not necessarily as dominant as they once were. Then you've got all these guys like Luka, Tatum, Embiid. On the come up, you got guys like Giannis and Jokic who are now like making a case for being the best, but we don't have, like, it's all very recent. So you're kind of pitting past performances, like the past hierarchy of players versus the up-and-coming hierarchy of players. So it's a very mixed bag. You know what I'm saying? And I think Jimmy Butler is the weirdest one because he really belongs in that old group, right? He's an aging player. He's in his 30s, right? He belongs in that old group, and he doesn't try in the regular season. That's the problem with Jimmy Butler. He doesn't try in the regular season. I think I rate him a little bit higher because, you can give the caveats that he didn't do well in the finals, right? And he didn't do well in the Eastern Conference finals past a certain point. You can make those caveats, but I'm looking at recent times, and in the past 4 years, he's been, right, like, if you look at the totality of the last 4 years, he's been like a top 5 playoff performer overall. Like, he consistently gets his team, who is not that talented of a team, to the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals. The only year he didn't do it was 2021, right? That's it. but he's consistently been really good. Weezy versus Morj, why you hate Kawhi? You'll be surprised how high I rate Kawhi here. You'll be surprised. A lot of people rate Kawhi low now, I saw, and because he's not healthy, and I'm like, that's stupid. You should just rate players by, like, what's the point of rating them when they're not healthy? Just rate them by, what's the point? Just rate them when they're healthy. Bragos is joking. All right. Wait, Brago, drop your top 10. Let's see. I got Jokic at number 1. I think for this, it's easier to go one down, basically. I think it's easier to start from the top and go down. I got Jokic at 1. How big do we want to make this font? I got Jokic at 1. I got Curry at 2. I got Giannis at 3. So, I penalize Giannis very, very heavily. Sanjeev says, Morj, what's your opinion on Kobe? Any opinion on Kobe I give is going to be wildly unfair because I saw Kobe at the worst that he ever was, which was 2016. I did see that final game of Kobe's, which was fucking insane because to me, like, I'd just been hearing all this stuff about how clutch Kobe was, how amazing he was in his prime, Mamba mentality and stuff, and I'm like, this is some shit, like, this sounds like some very romanticized shit. Then I watched his last game, and this dude was running on absolute fumes. And the fact that he made every one of his shots down the stretch and the 2 free throws to get him to 60 points, I think making those 2 free throws to get him to 60 points, that's one of the most impressive things I've seen in basketball, just because that's like the difference between closing out your career with a perfect sort of ending versus, like, it's like the last shots of your career, right? And you get to do it at the line, and you get to basically choose how people remember that final game, right? 60, the fact that it was to get to the difference between 58 and 60, right? Even just getting to 59, so if you'd missed one of those free throws, it'd kind of be like, fuck, that's, just short of perfect. You know what I mean? Like, to make sure that you round it off, like, getting those 2 free throws to just round it off on 60 and make sure that everybody remembers you as hitting those final 2 clutch shots, I think that that's fucking crazy. So that was very impressive to me. But beyond that, I think that Kobe has no place being ranked like top 3 by people all time. But again, I didn't watch him. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you didn't watch him, you don't understand, like, don't look at his numbers or his field goal percentage and stuff, and it was a different era. And like, sure, he played with Shaq for like 3 of those rings and stuff, but like, no, he was just trust me, he was the best. I was like, I've got nothing to say. I'm like, okay, I believe you guys. I guess we just put Kobe really felt like, I just don't get it. I don't get people who put Kobe above LeBron, but again, I didn't watch Kobe, so I assume that they understand something or the other that I'm missing, but whatever. Fatinga, thanks for the 5. Please compare each player that you're talking about with a One Piece character so that we get an idea. For example, Braun being Rayleigh or Roger. Braun is right now old Whitebeard. 100%. Gabe Sylvester says, is Ja in the top 10? Ja's not even in the NBA. How, with the top 10 in what? Certainly not in NBA players. He doesn't. The fuck? Top 10 top 10 felons? What is Ja? For the record, I'm not saying Ja should go to jail or anything like that. I don't even know how much I support the ban or what. I don't know. My feelings on the whole Ja situation, it's one of those where I feel like if I don't have a clear opinion on it, it's best not to speak about it, right? Because you're speaking on somebody else's. You're speaking on some very important shit that other people have much more versed takes about, you know? I mean, because you can go the angle of like, well, they're being way too harsh on him, yada, yada, yada. Or you could also go the angle with like, the level of influence that he has on kids, which is going to be huge because he's probably the flashiest up-and-coming young player. I can see both sides of it, and at the end of the day, you have to follow the NBA's rules. I think he's very stupid. I don't think that should be controversial. Darkstar RNG says defense matters, Giannis than Jokic. Defense doesn't matter as much as, like, what do you call? Like, obviously it matters, right? But at the end of the day, what you're looking at is the totality of results, right? So you can't just say defense matters, therefore this player's a better defender. You have to look at, okay, overall, does this player's lack of defense and this player's strength in defense make for a better, like, one player better than the other? Because you have to remember, in basketball, offense matters significantly more. Not just a little more, significantly more. Jokic being a center, you could argue that for that position in general, it matters more than average. And Giannis obviously plays a lot of help. He's a great rim protector, etc. But at the same time, with Jokic, his defense is fine and his offense is amazing, and offensive impact matters more. Whereas with Giannis, yeah, his defense can be great, but you can't individually stop an entire team. Like, if he could, then the Heat wouldn't have been running them over consistently throughout those last couple games, right? And the bigger problem than having good defense or not good defense is there a clear go-to defensive scheme by the other team that they can rely on to shut your offense down? With Giannis, the case is yes. We've seen it so many times. Build a wall. Giannis doesn't know what to do. He was fucking terrified. Like, that was some of the most embarrassing basketball play I've ever seen from a player that is being purported to be the best player in the world. I did not watch LeBron's collapse in 2011, but Giannis's collapse at the end of that Heat series was embarrassing because he looked like he genuinely didn't know how to play basketball. He was terrified of the ball. He was throwing it away. He was scared to be touching. He's the best player in the world. He was scared to be touching a basketball. That is a significantly weaker weakness than Jokic not being great at defense. Bad Galley, thanks for the 2. Did you see how little Jokic cared about winning? Yeah, I think it was very funny. Jokic is a likable guy. I'm not going to go so far. Like, people are saying, like, Jay Guap says Jokic held defenders to the same field goal percentage that Giannis did when he won his championship. I'm not going to go so far as to be like, Jokic, like, I don't think looking at defensive stats, etc. is the end-all, be-all for defense. I think, because it's hard to... Defense is really generally a team effort at the end of the day, honestly. It's more of a team effort than anything. Because you can... It's like, how often are you being guarded by just one guy? Like, how often can a stop be credited to just Jokic versus how his team is helping him or putting him in a good position? There's a lot of factors that go into it. Brago says Embiid in the playoffs will never reflect how good he is as a player. He's brittle. I mean, my take is, I don't like measuring players when they're, like, this is why I don't get on Kawhi's case for this. Like, people are like, you got to rank Kawhi lower because he's never healthy. I rank people by what they're like when they're healthy, personally. But Embiid is different. Because I have watched... How do I explain this? I'm an Embiid hater because I used to be a big Embiid fan. Not a big Embiid fan, but I remember, like, going all the way back, like, for a long time, I liked the idea of a center being really dominant in the NBA because I wanted to see, like, another Shaq. So I looked at Embiid as, okay, he's going to be that guy. So I've waited. I've waited year after year for this dude to get his shit together. 2019, 2020, like, year after year, you guys don't understand. I've been on the Embiid train and consistently been disappointed. And it's not that he's always injured. He's really not always injured. Sometimes he's just playing shitty, or sometimes he just doesn't play well. So, for me, this year, I've experienced so many times at this point being like, okay, I think this is the year that the Sixers actually do something. I think this is the year that Embiid, makes the Eastern Conference, or like in 2019, the year that the Raptors won, I thought that the Sixers would be in the finals. Because they had that Jimmy Butler, Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris. I think they even had JJ Redick at that point. They had a really stacked squad. I was just like, yeah, the Sixers versus Warriors, that's going to be a cool matchup. I've waited for him to do well for so long, and it's been fool's gold every single time. It does not matter how good this dude plays in the regular season. It does not matter. It is a lie. So we're at a point where I'm like, I'm watching this season, and I'm like, they're really going to give this dude an MVP? Don't we know what he is at this point? I've seen it happen so many times. They're giving this dude an MVP. It's the fakest MVP ever. Cool. Then people are calling him the best player in the world. I'm like, Have people not been watching what I've been watching? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he does in the regular season. He will always be this guy that flakes out in the playoffs. It's just him. And that very much does represent him. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put him at number 10 right now. I've convinced myself. That's that's why I think like when Jokic started playing well, I was like, I don't know if he's better than Embiid, etc. It took me a while, but I came around to the Jokic camp. I think once Jokic beat the Clippers in 2020, I was like, okay, this guy's the center. Maybe Embiid can still be that guy. I waited, but it's fool's gold. He's not a good player in the playoffs. Bragadier says MVP is a regular season award. Yeah, but he didn't deserve that either. He didn't deserve that either. MVP, I think, should have gone to, in my opinion, I think MVP should have gone to Giannis. Because Bucks were the first seed. Giannis was also putting up historic numbers. I agree with not giving it to Jokic, but it should not have gone to Embiid. That's all I'm saying. Braga says they called Jokic MVP's fake before he won. Yeah, they did, but the difference is that Jokic has always been a good player in the playoffs, whereas Embiid is a trash player in the playoffs. So it's kind of like, with Jokic, it was almost Embiid, they've given him really good teams. Like, Jimmy Butler makes it to the finals without Embiid. Twice, you know? He had Ben Simmons back when Ben Simmons was good. No one was saying Ben Simmons was ass back then. He had Jimmy Butler, he had Ben Simmons, he had a fucking stacked-ass squad. He didn't, like, it doesn't matter what you give Embiid. You can give him James Harden, and James Harden will win 2 games with 40-point performances for you. Embiid can't get you 2 more. It's just, I don't know. Like, Jokic suffered because when he had a full team, he beat the Clippers down 3-1, which is one of the more impressive playoff wins by anybody in recent history. Because that Clippers team was basically being treated like a juggernaut and the favorite to win the whole thing that year. So Jokic won that. Then his best players are out, so it's impossible for him to do anything in the playoffs after that. But he still puts up good numbers. So from my perspective, it's like, should Jokic have won those 2 MVPs? I don't know. But at the very least, you can't say that he's a bad playoff performer during that time. Whereas Embiid, we know he's a bad playoff performer. And, you know, at this point, I just don't see why he got the MVP this year, because it's like, Giannis was also putting up crazy stats in the same conference, took his team to higher seed. I don't really get it. I think they just wanted to give it to somebody else. All right. I will put Luka, but I really don't know about Luka. Because I really don't know about Luka, man. Because I like him. Like, I think Luka is great because he has not had a bad playoffs yet. The first playoffs he had against those Clippers, phenomenal. Second playoffs he had against those Clippers, he should have pulled that one out. He was close, but still, you can't do it with the team he had. Put up phenomenal numbers. Went toe-to-toe with Kawhi. I think he was better than Kawhi that series, but you could argue it either way. And then last playoffs he was in, he beat the Suns, who were favorites to go to the finals again. And Luka did not have a good team again, or not a great team again. The problem is that he didn't make the playoffs this year. I feel borderline, like, he didn't make the playoffs. I get Luka. Yeah, people put Luka really, really high. Ender Ayanami says Luka Doncic is Devin Booker's father. I don't know. It's possible Devin Booker took a step up this season. Bragodier says Jimmy is unfortunately still a B player with A+ moments. He can't be the best player on a championship team. I agree. I agree. I probably rate Jimmy too high, but I think I'm just trying to be fair, because I'm like, if Jason Tatum had the results that Jimmy Butler had over the last 4 years, right? Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, I'd probably be like, yeah, Jason Tatum goes in right here at number 5. I think it's just because Jimmy doesn't do shit in the regular season. I get that Jimmy's got some really good games and then a lot of really bad games, but the way how do I put this? I feel like the way that his good games come and go, it's usually at the right time to get his team over the hump. if that makes sense, you know? Because I'm not just talking about this year's playoffs. Jimmy's been that dude for a bit now. He was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. He was in the finals in 2020. Like, he has good... He's not consistently great, but he's a really scary player. And I can't, like, he's had top 5 playoff success out of all the players, you know, in the NBA for the last 4 years. I feel like it's unfair to rank him low. You know what I mean? But I get that if we're just going by how we actually perceive their level, Jimmy's not quite there. But he's just got the resume. And the thing is that his team's not that great. You know, his next best player is Bam Adebayo. I get that his team has performed very well this playoffs, but they don't always do that. And when I say this playoffs, I'm just talking like Eastern Finals and Finals, they played really well. But you go back to his 2020 run or last year's run, it was mainly Jimmy carrying. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. Who is the Saint Garling of the NBA all time? I don't even know, dude, because we don't even know who Saint Garling is in One Piece at this point. B-Ball Hunter asks how much of an NBA guy is Brago? I mean, more than me. Brago hosts NBA streams all the time. Brago says JT got to the finals and been in the Eastern Conference Finals almost every year. Yeah, but listen, man, I feel like with Jimmy and Jason, this is more of a perception thing, right? You can look at their stats and say Jason's probably consistently a little bit better. But Jason is just such a, like... Jason Tatum, to me, is, like, the most unreliable... Like, they'll both have, like, spots of good games and bad games. But, like, Jimmy's games, I feel like, there's just something scarier about Jimmy Butler, where it's just, like, it feels as though lots of times, like this finals was kind of the first time, like this finals and this last Eastern Conference Finals was the first time that I felt like, okay, Jimmy Butler didn't come through when he needed to perform. Whereas I feel like Jason Tatum regularly, throughout the time I've been watching him, he kind of just doesn't show up a lot of the time. He has some really great games, like that 50-point Game 7, you know, against the Sixers. But to me, that's a rarity, right? To me, like, lots of times you can be counting on Jason Tatum to show up and he doesn't show up. Vino says 51-point Game 7. Yeah, but, like, literally the Game 6 before that, he nearly lost them the whole game by playing like ass for 3 quarters. You know, so it's kind of like, to me, it's clearly not in Jason Tatum's control whether or not, it's not like he's got a flip that he turns on and off. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in that spot in the first place. You know, Jason Tatum, they fucking lost to James Harden playing by himself at like 50 years old or however old James Harden is at this point. I don't know. Brago says because JT light-skinned. I don't know, man. I feel like Jason Tatum in the finals was worse than Jimmy Butler in the finals this year. That's all I got to say. I feel like Jimmy Butler in the finals in 2020 played phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is the first series I've seen where Jimmy Butler didn't perform well, whereas I've seen Jason Tatum shit the bed many times. That's all I got to say. That being said, I don't know if I put Jimmy Butler over Jason Tatum. I don't know. This is where the list gets hard. Here's the players that I'm looking at, all right? The players I'm looking at are LeBron, who is my favorite player. You guys might be surprised to see how low I end up ranking him, but I'll say this about LeBron. If I need a player to play really well for one game, I'm putting LeBron right up here in the top 4. He lands somewhere. If I need a player to play really well for one game, you guys can call me a whatever you want to call me. I'm putting LeBron at number 2 behind Jokic. But that's just not what the situation is anymore. If I need somebody to play well for a full playoff series or a full playoffs, that's more so what I'm looking at here. And I can't, in good faith, put LeBron in the top 4 anymore. Braga says, I feel like everybody's inconsistent at times. Yeah, that's true. I think the way I look at it is kind of, it's just the further you go up my list, the more guaranteed you are to put in a good series. So not just a good... It's fine to have a bad game here or there, but how guaranteed are you to have a good series? I think Jokic is almost guaranteed to never have a bad game. He's had, like, in this entire playoff run, he had, like, one bad game Maybe, and that's using bad very loosely. More like 1 or 2 all-right games. Curry might have some bad games, but he almost always has a good series, at least over the last few years, right? You could say the Lakers series wasn't great, but he was solid, you know? He's generally almost guaranteed to have a good series. Even Giannis, because he's so physically dominant, when he has I remember the game they lost the series to the Heat this year, right? Game 5, right? I didn't catch the full game, but I caught the tail end of it. Even though I view that as the most embarrassing performance by a top player, the number 1 player in the world, number 1, that I've ever seen, he still had 38 and 20. So he can still put up numbers. So that it's hard to even, it's such a mixed bag when you come to rating Giannis. Brago says he can tussle with Admirals, but he can't beat them. Yeah, let's say that Jimmy is basically Jimmy Butler is Marco. Jimmy Butler is Marco. You know? And then Jason Tatum is Sabo. And you guys can rank that however you want. It's up to you all. Let's get some One Piece stuff in here so people understand. Jokic right now is, shit. If I say Shanks, people get really mad. This is the problem, isn't it? Okay, who's the strongest character in One Piece right now? Don't say Im. Everybody tell me who's the strongest character in your opinion. Don't say Im. Someone saying Luffy? If I put Shanks, do you know what if I put Shanks, the Mihawk fans will come from Twitter and attack me here in my safe space. Brago DA says the closer the bucket you play, the less bad games you have unless you're AD. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true, but at the same time, it's I don't even fault for having bad games. It's more can you consistently put in a good series, right? So, I think Curry will always put in a good series, even though he's an outside player. KD, he used to be, in my opinion, pretty much right up there with LeBron to always be guaranteed to be consistently good every series. People want me to put if I put him as Shanks, people are gonna be mad. All right. You know what? I have to put him as Shanks. Okay, let me ask you guys. Who is strongest? Shanks, Mihawk, Dragon, Akainu. Okay, we're gonna say the rule is no one from heaven is allowed. No Emu, no Gorosei, nothing. Alright? Blackbeard, after I saw Blackbeard go high diff with Law, who I don't even put in the top 10, fuck no. Brago says Curry is Shanks. Then who the fuck is Jokic? I think Curry being Shanks feels right, though. You know what I mean? It feels right. But people are saying I gotta put Jokic as Shanks. I'm so confused, man. What is the people's opinion? Because if I go on Twitter, I never even mentioned Shanks in my Mihawk discussions in the last couple days. Also, this is what happens when I have too much time on my hands. The last 2 days just talking on Twitter about Mihawk, whatever. This is just what happens when I have too much time on my hands. One Piece should come back soon. Let's see if we can get through this 5-week break. But if I go on Twitter, and I suggest anything about Mihawk, then people come in without me talking about Shanks at all, and they want to talk about how Mihawk's better than Shanks. And I'm like, this isn't the discussion. I don't really get where we're going with here, right? But I feel like if I did a poll on Twitter asking who's stronger, Shanks or Mihawk, I feel like Mihawk would win. But here, Mihawk's only getting 9% of the vote. Can someone explain to me where's the One Piece? If I went to Reddit, what would the opinions be there? What is the difference between YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, Arlong Park forums? What else is there? Is there a One Piece Instagram, One Piece TikTok? Paravision told me there's a One Piece TikTok. God knows what sort of idiocy goes on over there. Giannis is Kaido? Giannis being Kaido feels right. But he's dead. Does that make Luca Big Mom? That's fucking hilarious. I feel like Luca is Luffy, right? Because he's on the come up. Or he's Blackbeard. He's one of the two, right? One of these players is I don't know. We'll figure it out in a second. Jokic is Luffy? You think Luffy is the strongest character in the world right now? Hiai stances Jokic has Kizaru vibes? No, he's come on now. Jokic is number 1 in the NBA verse. This is very different than Kizaru. Pat Galley says Jokic is Luffy. JWP says Twitter is heavily populated by Zoro Piece fans. But I feel like during ZKK, people were calling Zoro fans... I also feel like Twitter is where Zoro fans get called stupid a lot. I'm just so confused, man. Bragadia says Blackbeard is Embiid. I could put that. I feel like Blackbeard being Embiid feels right. I'm going to say Luca is Luffy because I think he's like the most popular rising star at the moment. You don't really know where to place him. His ceiling is high. But then on other days, he can be struggling with the Seraphim. Jokic is Prime Beard? There is no. LeBron is Whitebeard. I don't know where the fuck. Okay, I'm going to say... Fine, we'll say Giannis. We won't take into account who's alive and who's dead. Let's say... I'm going to say Jokic is Dragon. Let's do that. Jokic is Dragon. There we go. I forgot what the poll was. Did people say... I feel like Jokic being Dragon makes more sense. You know? Let's just roll with that. I'm not saying Dragon's the strongest, but he could be. Alright. Ja is Green Bull. Ja is Kid. If we're being honest, Ja is Kid because he's been excommunicated from One Piece for disappointing everybody. No, LeBron is Whitebeard. Old, tired, done with this shit. Can still kick ass when he wants to, but not for long. Ace was Kyrie. When Kyrie left, that's when LeBron had his 2018 run. You know, that's when he went off. Same as in Marine Ford. When Ace died, that's when we saw the real Whitebeard come out. Joe, thanks for the 5. Most Shanks fans are Sanji fans trying to downplay Zoro. Hyping Shanks doesn't help Sanji. That's the other crazy thing about the One Piece community, which is that the web, there's a web, right? So, here's the web. All right? So, it all comes down to Zoro. Zoro's number 1 most important, all right? If you insult... Okay. If you say anything gassing up Shanks, right? Then that is a shot at Zoro. Shanks fans... Wait, I should make this line red, right? Let's see. Yeah, if you gas up Shanks, then that's getting you in trouble with Zoro. Because if you're gassing up Shanks, then that implies that Shanks might be stronger than Mihawk, right? And if Shanks is stronger than Mihawk, well then, that means that Zoro's dream, his final end goal, you know, not counting his final fight with the Celestial Dragons, but Zoro's end goal that he's chasing is not as high as people would like, right? I think that Zoro and Shanks, right, so that's an antagonistic relationship, right? Mihawk Shanks, obviously antagonistic, right? Because if you like Mihawk, then that's a shot at Shanks. And if you like Shanks, well, that's a shot at Mihawk, right? Mihawk Zoro, they love each other. They are friends. Because Mihawk fans just like Mihawk. And Zoro fans like Mihawk because the stronger that Zoro is, the stronger that Mihawk is, that means the stronger that Zoro will be by the end of the story, right? Now, Sanji fans, obviously, they don't like they don't like Zoro. I think that is the simplest given in the community, right? So Sanji, Zoro, they can't be friends. But Sanji and Shanks, I feel like this one is more neutral. You know? You just said that Sanji and Shanks, it's like I don't really believe that Sanji fans are Shanks fans in disguise. I don't personally believe it. So I'm going to put this in blue. I feel like this is neutral. We'll do a dashed line. But I suppose they could be on the same side occasionally. Because I did see people with Shanks avatars agreeing with my downplay of Mihawk. My downplay of Mihawk. Now it's downplay to say that Zoro doesn't fight Mihawk at the end of the story. But I feel like this is kind of like we'll be friends when it's time to be friends. But I feel like Shanks has his own fan base for its own sake, right? Then you've got me, who doesn't like Law, because I'm going to make this one a different color. This is going to be, this will be brown from Morj, alright? Who doesn't like Law, because Law hype makes Zoro look bad. And I'm surprised that there's not more of a Zoro-Law rivalry. I feel like there should be more of a Zoro-Law rivalry, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of the fandom. Honestly, I feel like I instigated more than anything. I think that Zoro-Law, I don't know. Because I think even in, the Wano arc, Whole Cake Island, Dressrosa, etc., I think most Zoro fans were still mostly obsessed with Sanji and saying that Zoro is better than Sanji. And I'm over here, I'm just like, what about Law? What about this other dude? He's literally walking around with a sword. Don't you have a don't you have a bone to pick with this guy? Are you guys just okay that this guy just showed up on the Straw Hats ship, has been hanging around, been the clear number 2 on the ship, which was Zoro's spot, and he just had that spot for like 150 chapters? Is everyone just cool with this? This guy's calling the shots in the entire alliance while Zoro's fucking around in the woods, not, trying to find a sword, sleeping with random women? I'm confused. I don't know why the Zoro-Law fandom are not more at odds. I feel like I mostly just, Jamin says Morj is alone in this beef. Yeah, I feel like more people should get on this. I'm like, why are we even arguing Zoro versus Sanji at this point? Why can't we just like both these characters? Zoro versus Law? That's where the real problem's at. Law fighting Blackbeard? We gotta, like, that's a real thing that you gotta argue with as a Zoro fan, But beyond that, we've got Kid. Alright? Got Kid. And, there are no Kid fans except for Gio. And pretty much everyone hates Kid. Nobody likes this guy. I don't think he's got a single... I just don't think any fan base... Like, you've got Sanji fans saying that he should be stronger than Kid. And you know what? Nobody even fights it. People are like, fuck it. Sanji can be stronger than Kid. We don't care. So nobody likes Kid. And then who's the last person in this equation? I think this is good enough for now. There was somebody else I had in mind, but we can leave it for now. Alright, guys, back to this. What were we talking about? Who got me off track? Rock Nation Brunch, thanks for the 5. Who's the strongest villain Luffy faced that you think current Luffy could knock out with Conquerors right now? I mean, so we know the minimum is Mr. 3 because he did that already. The tricky thing is, like, Mr. 3 to this date, I think, is still the strongest character that Luffy has knocked out with Conquerors Haki. Unless Flampe was secretly stronger than Mr. 3. Shit. I don't know. Because I feel like it's not even just about strength. It's about, your strength of will, too. Because Luffy could knock out Mr. 3. I feel like Luffy could not knock out Vivi with Conquerors Haki. Personal opinion. It's not really based on anything. It's just a feeling. Oh, Sabo. We got to throw Sabo in here. Nah, I don't. That opens up a whole new web. Because once you throw Sabo in, then you're comparing him probably to Zoro. I think to Law, but definitely to like Marco and stuff. Sabo's just got his own. It's just a whole thing. It's the whole thing. Oh, you're right. I'm not thinking about the Navy while I'm doing this stuff with the NBA players. Shit. How did the Navy fit into this? Who's a Kainu? I feel like Kawhi's a Kainu. I've got Kawhi Leonard at number 5. I got Kawhi at number 5. Is Kawhi a Kaino or is he like Big Mom? Big Mom? Are we even counting Big Mom at this point? Who do you think fits Kawhi better, Kaino or Big Mom? I'll say this about LeBron. If you need one game, like one really good game, or maybe one or two really good performances, I'm putting LeBron right up here. Right up here, just below Jokic. I think if you need one really good performance, I think LeBron can give it. I think we saw that this playoffs. I mean, you can talk about his foot being injured all you want. I don't know how much to weigh that. All I know is that this playoffs, when it really came down to it, against the Grizzlies, they needed a game to get them up, I think like 3-1 or something like that. Like they needed they needed to close out a certain game, and LeBron took them to overtime and then closed it out in overtime. And you could literally see him kind of flip that switch and just take over the game. Same thing with the Warriors. They needed to close it out in that game 6. Otherwise, things could have gotten real bad in that game 7, right? They could have blown out 3-1 lead. And when it counted, LeBron was the best player. He just took over that game 6. He's like, let me close this out. Even against the Nuggets, when everyone was making fun of LeBron, they were down 3-0. You could say LeBron should have flipped the switch a little earlier, but the most that LeBron had been piled on in a long time, I think, was that when he was down 3-0 to the Nuggets. Everyone was making fun of him. He had that first quarter in the game 4 against the Nuggets, and everybody was sucking his dick again. Everyone was like, oh my god, he's like 50 years old, he's still doing this shit, he's incredible, still LeBron, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, it got kind of turned around to be like, well, he's still lost or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, he put up 40 points, great numbers. If they did not have, like, Nikola Jokic, if the Nuggets didn't have Nikola Jokic, LeBron probably gets them over the hill for that game, right? But at the end of the day, LeBron's not the best player in the world anymore. He's just not. I've had to come to terms with that. LeBron is still my favorite player. Let's get the Streamlex to 200. But, and I still think, again, if you need him for one game to give you a great performance, he can do it against just about anybody. Couldn't do it against the Nuggets just by a hair. But I'm not going to rank him higher than, I'm not going to rank him top 5 because we're not looking at just one game. It's like, how good can you be in a full series? Or like a full playoff run. Tala, thanks for the 279. Bar portrayal, there is zero argument for kid greater than Sanji. I don't want to get into that, man. I don't want to get into that. JT is Kizaru? Come on now. No, Kizaru has never let us down. You know how many times Jason Tatum has let us down? Jason Tatum reminds me of Sabo. I think just because, you need someone to protect King Cobra. Doesn't come through. You need someone to save the Lucia Kingdom? Doesn't come through. That's the Jason Tatum I know. Puts up great numbers in low-stakes situations, such as against Jesus Burgess in Dressrosa, and then doesn't do anything else. Kawhi is Fuji. He always got bandages. That's hilarious. Alright, Kawhi's Big Mom. Oh, shit. I guess we got to do the rest of the top 5 over here. That's fine. That works. Alright, 6. So I want to put Jimmy Butler here. Here are the players we're still working with, right? We're working with... I feel like Jimmy Butler's wrong, though. I could put KD. It's just, what's it even based off of at this point? Devin Booker was better than him this playoffs. And not just for that Nuggets series. Devin Booker was better against the Clippers, too. Eric Gelato says, Morj thinks Kid did well in Wano. No, I don't think that Kid or Law did well in Wano. I don't think either of them did well. Who else we got? Yeah, we got KD. So Jimmy, Jason, KD. We already got Embiid ranked, and LeBron. This is my top 10. Not in order, right? So I'm trying to figure out where these 4 go. I think KD is consistently better than LeBron at this point. Like, LeBron's too hard to rank, because it's just like, it's too hard to rank. It's like, how do I value him? He can't just be he needs another guy to carry for like 60% of the time. Or like 70% of the time. Then that 30% he can give you, he's going to be like top 3 in the world. It's hard. KD is Mihawk? Oh, God. Don't say that, man. People don't even realize this. I am a Mihawk fan. If you ask me which side character I like seeing the most in One Piece, period, it's fucking Mihawk. People don't get it. I really fucking like Mihawk. There is no. That's what was so frustrating when people like hearing somebody say that, oh, KD is Mihawk. That hurts. Although it actually fits because KD's kind of this merchant that just travels around from the Warriors to the Nets to the Thunder, the Warrior to the Nets to the Suns. He'll just go wherever. Like Mihawk's kind of just floating around. He'll join Cross Guild. We're going for One Piece. I guess so. I kind of don't feel like it anymore, but I'll do it. I really like Mihawk. That's why when people are like, oh, the agenda, Morj's agenda, I'm like, you guys don't understand. I don't have an agenda. I didn't say this on Twitter, obviously, because on Twitter, you know, it's just Twitter. But I don't have an agenda regarding Mihawk. I really don't. Maybe he's stronger than Shanks. I don't fucking know. Maybe he's Zoro's final opponent, his strongest opponent. I don't know. I'm just saying I'm calling it like I see it, which is the story looks like it's going to conclude with a fight against the Celestial Dragons, right? Big picture. That's what the story looks like it's going to conclude with. That means Zoro's probably going to fight someone after Mihawk. Because the one thing I'm certain of is that the story's not going to fucking end with Zoro versus Mihawk as the big epic final battle of One Piece. I just can't see that happening. So I'm like, okay, probably going to end with Zoro versus the Celestial Dragons. Which means that Zoro fights Mihawk earlier. Guess that's just the way it's going to be. Apparently that's blasphemy to a lot of people. But I swear, I like Mihawk a lot. I promise he is my second. I'm trying to think. It's hard to compare side characters because, like, Wiper is my favorite side character ever in One Piece, but he's not like a recurring character. So Mihawk's overall my favorite side character in One Piece in terms of who's actually relevant to the story. Tala, thanks for the 279. Morj, it's break month. Let the power scaling go wild. We'll do a power scaling stream. I'm thinking I can do a top 30 stream or something. I think KD is Mihawk, though. It fits. JP, thanks for the 20. Jimmy is amongst my favorite players, but I don't know if I'd put him in top 10. You don't know if you'd put him in top 10? In sheer tenacity, he's top 3, and it's pushed him to make up for raw talent. But we're not grading on raw talent. We're just grading on results. Feels more like a crocodile of the NBA. Ambitious, stayed relevant. I can't argue with what he's been able to accomplish. I think if Jimmy Butler tried during the regular season, I think people would have a very different opinion of him. But in the playoffs, the last 4 years, NBA Finals, in which he actually had an all-time great, in my opinion, Finals performance. In the bubble, Jimmy Butler in 2020 was one of the best Finals performances I've seen, to be honest, in a losing effort. This was I think recency bias might be clouding people because this Finals and the latter half of the Eastern Conference Finals was the first time that Jimmy really didn't show up. But 2020 playoffs, phenomenal. Last year's playoffs, phenomenal. 60% of this playoffs, phenomenal. You know? So I'm not gonna, mark Jimmy down for running out of gas or basically not being able to maintain that tippy top level in the end stretch when he's been doing it for years and then other players didn't even make it as far as he did this year. You get what I'm saying? It's not worse to get to the finals and then play bad than losing in the first or second round, in my opinion. You know, if other players aren't even making it far enough, the way I'd put it is this, right? Jason Tatum last year had a great first series against the Nets. Phenomenal. Then by the time he made it to the finals, he played terrible. You know? That's the thing that can happen the further you go in the playoffs. But you still have to give people props for how far they're getting in the playoffs. Just because they, once they're at the finish line, they're not able to maintain a certain level of performance. It's that doesn't make them worse than people that couldn't even do it in the first place. That couldn't even get there in the first place, in my opinion. So I'm probably rating Jimmy too high, but he's definitely top 10. And it's just if I'm looking at straight results, he's been good. He's been consistently really good in the playoffs. Umair Ullah says, Morj, please do top 30 strongest live next stream. I think I am going to do that. And not just because of this stream, but I had a list of stream topics to do over the break, and top 30 was one of them. And I think next week would be a good time. Brago DA says, Jimmy gave us a few years of LeBron's playoff career. I mean, okay, let's not get crazy. It's not like LeBron, but I thought it was insane that in 2020, like you remember that finals, in 2020, I thought LeBron was gonna walk over the Heat. Thought it was gonna be easy. I was shocked to see like Jimmy Butler actually going toe to toe with LeBron in those playoffs. Like not really toe to toe. LeBron was obviously better, but the game that I will never forget is it was Game 5, and LeBron was having a phenomenal game. And even though it was the pandemic, we like me, my roommates, we had some people over to watch the game. Everyone watching was a LeBron fan, so we all felt like this is the one. LeBron was having a phenomenal game. It just seemed like the one that they were going to close it out. You know, they gave the Heat one game earlier in the series. That's not a big deal. But it just felt like this was the game. It was coming down to the wire. And it just made no sense. Jimmy Butler was, like, room full of people. We're all excited to just see LeBron win his 4th championship. We're, like, watching it go down the stretch. And this dude, Jimmy Butler, who is not supposed to be there. The Heat were not supposed to be in that finals. No one had them in the finals. Nobody thinks that Jimmy Butler is that dude. He's going shot for shot with LeBron down the stretch, and we're just like, fuck. Like, this dude was just killing our joy in front of our eyes. This was the game that came down to that LeBron passing out to Danny Green, which I still think he shouldn't have done. But Jimmy Butler was literally going shot for shot with LeBron down the stretch, and he was making every single one. And I was just like, what do you even say? Like, this dude's in his first NBA Finals. He's playing like LeBron. Obviously not consistently, not every game, but at the end of the day, he's done it enough to have some really great playoff runs in the last several years. I don't fault him that much for having one bad finals because Jason Tatum had a worse finals last year, in my opinion. Lots of players have bad finals. Steph Curry was bad in one of his finals. Jimmy Butler's been good in previous finals he was in. Eastern Conference Finals last year. Most of the playoffs this year. I don't know. Yeah, this is a hard group to rank. I think I've got KD above LeBron, so I know that that's a thing, and I hate to say that because I don't like KD, and LeBron's my favorite player, but I just gotta call it. Talas, thanks for the 279. Read a Queen thread I made before your top 30. He makes it. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, Braga, Game 5 Jimmy was one of the best players I've seen in my life. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. He's a very difficult player to rate. I agree that 6 is probably too high. Who do you guys have between... I know he's better than Embiid. That's all I fucking know. So I know he's somewhere between 6 and 9. I think KD's better than LeBron. This is too hard. This is actually very difficult. Jay Guap says, Morj, please, Booker is better. So I think it's hilarious that everyone just underrates the shit out of Devin Booker because people don't like him. You know what I mean? Because Devin Booker's had some phenomenal, like, this year in the playoffs. I'm not joking. The games that he was having against the Nuggets, some of them, I'm fucking serious when I say this. From a scoring perspective, purely objective, if I take out the name Devin Booker and I pretend it's just I'm watching some player, that's just about the best I've seen anyone play ever in a playoff series, right? So not just some regular game, like regular season game. Because the crazy thing was, like, Jokic had that one game that he had 53 points, which is an all-time great game. Devin Booker played better than him that game. It's fucking insane. Scholar H says, More just sent us $2 super that was looked over. My mistake. My mistake. Sorry about that. KD is Blackbeard? That makes sense. Let me see. What the fuck? Am I gonna have to pull out the super stab? Where'd it go? What the fuck? I'm gonna have to pull out the super stab. Sorry, Scholar H, give me 1 second. I'm actually having a really hard time picking between these 4. Because I want to give the nod to KD and LeBron because they've just been around longer, so they've done it longer, so it's more consistent. But Jimmy, well, more consistent in the long range. But then if I'm looking at it like, what have they done for me lately? It's like, well, Jimmy Butler's been the best lately in terms of results. I know results aren't everything, right? But it's kind of just like, if you do it this many times, you kind of got to just, maybe the dude is that good. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't, I think the biggest problem with Jimmy Butler is not just that he doesn't try in the regular season, not just that he's inconsistent. It's that there's no discernible special quality about his style of play. You know? It's all just fundamentals, being crafty, as they say, etc. But he's not, like, you know, passing center. He's not the best three-point shooter ever. He's not a physical freak. He's not whatever the fuck Luka is in terms of, like, just being able to bully people out of the way with his size, etc., while also having the IQ, passing, shooting, blah, blah, blah. He's not the best two-way player, although he's a good two-way player. You know, he's not like a dominant center. He's not fucking KD, the most broken mid-range scorer ever. He's not LeBron. Jimmy Butler's just a dude, which is why I think it's harder. I feel like it's almost easy to underrate him, because it's like there's nothing clear about him that stands out. It's like he kind of just gets the results. And then obviously him having a bad finals skews things. Where's Scholar H's thing? Okay. Scholar H says, do you put fresh Kaido over current Luffy? That is actually a topic for the break week. That's actually that's a break week video topic. It's not next week, but it's coming. Scholar H, I'm sorry that you donated it again. I actually just caught it. It's all good. Fresh Kaido greater than current Luffy or no? That's a break week topic, so just wait on that. Reflexy, thank you very much. Hot take. Start of Final Saga, Usopp and Nami. Low Toby Roppo. End of Final Saga, Usopp and Nami. Greater than Prime Roger? That's not just a hot take. I don't know if I can even call that. I don't know what the fuck that is. Also, month break, no excuse for Wano analysis. I will try. There's also... I'll try. I'll explain a little bit my month break plans, I think, next stream, once I got a few things more in order. JP, thanks for the 5. I'm rating Jimmy just relatively to the others in the discussion. I don't see him beating anyone but Embiid and Tatum one-on-one. I mean, I don't think one-on-one is... I don't go by one-on-one. I think 8 is a fair place. Yeah, but... I'm like, at this point, I'm like, would I rather have Jason Tatum or Kevin Durant? I think Kevin Durant for consistency, but Tatum has higher peaks at this point. Let me do a poll. I'm kind of curious. Let's see. We're going to rank Jimmy last. Not last as in, like, I've already decided the spot, but we're going to figure out where he falls last. I don't watch. Yeah, LeBron is Whitebeard. We'll wait to get to him. Tala sent me a link. I will look at this later. I did like your last Reddit post, Tala. That was nice to read. But I'm not reading it right now. Oh, this is tight. See, I'm right to be... well, no, it's 53-33. Most people still have KD. I do think KD's... I guess the way I'd put it is of like, if you put KD in the if you put KD on those Celtics, I would be more scared of the Celtics right now than Jason Tatum on the Celtics. So I think that's fair. But I do think that KD underperformed this year, even though his stats look fine. I think that just watching, he wasn't what you hoped for. Because out of KD, you don't just hope for, like, you know, good. You hope that he raises his level and is, like, dominant. He never felt dominant this playoffs. And then last playoffs, he was terrible. Whereas Jason Tatum can randomly go off for, like, you know, the 50-point game. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what this... I feel like the ceiling with KD is lower now. But I think KD gives you a better floor. Chris, thanks for the 5. Go ahead and throw LBJ as Whitebeard. Got swept, but he's still him. I agree. Just read that narrator speech on Whitebeard again. I agree. LeBron's the definition of Whitebeard at this point. I've said before, LeBron's career is like Whitebeard. It's just exactly like Whitebeard. It's exactly like Whitebeard. Akainu is like Skip Bayless. And like everything that goes down in Marineford is the epitome of LeBron's career. It's like, you know, arguably he's the greatest pirate of all time. Like arguably he's right up there, but most people are gonna say it's Roger, right? And most people are gonna be like, you know, you're not the real Pirate King. You know, talking shit about him like, you know, you traveled around all these years, never winning as much as Jordan, never becoming the GOAT. You know, and like Marineford is the epitome of a LeBron performance. He shows up against a better team with an undermanned squad. LeBron goes off. He gets his points. Everyone's like, oh my God, LeBron's so great. He's the best player in the world. But then they still roast him at the end for not winning. And that's just, Marineford is Whitebeard's. Marineford Whitebeard is LeBron's story in a nutshell. That's just his career summed up. And, you know, Jordan was the dude. Jordan was Pirate King. Jordan was Roger. He was the dude that went around, conquered everything there was to conquer, won everything. Everybody calls him the GOAT. And Whitebeard's out here like, I'm just as good as him. But they just don't. Like, what am I supposed to do? My second best player was Marco. They've got a Kaido, Aokiji, Kizaru, Mihawk over there. Fuck was I supposed to do? My third best player was Jozu. Jozu is such a Kevin Love, it's actually kind of crazy. Jozu feels like the definition of Kevin Love. Squirtle is actually J.R. Smith, now that I think about it. Just throw in the game. Oh man, the parallel is actually really fucking fit. Squirtle is definitely J.R. Smith. Ace was the NBA Finals trophy. That got fumbled at the end. Ray Chia says, I think you missed my membership message. Oh, fuck. Here's the bigger problem. Membership messages, I don't know where to find them. Ray Chia, can you just comment again? I'm really sorry you had to donate. Can you comment again, and I'll just catch this comment? Billy Bob says, that means Shanks equals Kobe? No, Shanks is more like Shiki, who's a dude that, in my opinion, wasn't all that important at the end of the day, but a lot of people suck him off. Name, thanks for the 2. Morj, who you got ahead, Booker or Dame? If I needed to put my money on someone being better next year, I'd say Dame, just because he's done it for so many years. But my thing with Devin Booker is I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken a step up, you know what I mean? Because you never know when a player's taking a step up, because you never know when it's just a flash in a pan or a player's legitimately taking a step up. Because you look at Jokic, right? Jokic falls into that category. Like, you can remember Jokic in 2020 when he had a really good playoff run. I think that was the first time a lot of people noticed Jokic. You know, he beat the Clippers and everything like that. Obviously, with Jamal Murray also playing well. And it was kind of like, okay, was that just, you know, an anomaly? Like, the Nuggets, you know, Jokic just had a really good series. Obviously, the Nuggets as a whole played well. Obviously, Murray played well as well. But, like, you know, he's not in the, you know, we're not bumping him like top 5 or anything like that. But then the next couple of years, he was playing at an MVP level. You know what I mean? So you never know when a player's taking a jump or it's a flash in the pan. So I could, like, if Devin, okay, to be clear, Devin Booker, I don't expect him to play like that all of next season, because nobody in NBA history can play that well consistently, right? That was basically the hottest anyone has played ever, what he was doing against the Nuggets for a few games. But can he play like closer or more consistently to that level and pull out games like that occasionally? If he can, then he's better than Dame. But I wouldn't bet on it just yet. It might just be, you know, a one-off. Shanks would be, oh, we're already doing this. We've already got it. Shanks is Curry. Yeah, Ray Uchiha, do you mind, commenting again? Alright, let's see if we can do this. I'm gonna put KD above LeBron. I will put, do I put LeBron over Jason Tatum? That's the tricky thing. I'm gonna put LeBron over Jason Tatum. And I'm going to put Jimmy Butler over Jason Tatum. All right, I think I got it. I'm going with KD, LeBron, and I hate putting KD above LeBron. I maintain, to be very, very clear, if you need 1 or 2 great games, I'm putting LeBron right up there just behind Jokic. 1 or 2 great games. I don't think LeBron can be, KD can give you consistently over the course of a series, like, close to 30 points on great efficiency. I don't think he's going to dominate a game like LeBron, but it's just, what are you looking for, basically? Yeah, I'm going to put Jimmy Butler at... No, I'm going to put Jimmy at 8. Because I just feel like... The simplest way I would put it is, like, last year, I was rooting for Steph Curry and the Warriors to win, okay? So the Eastern Conference Finals was still going on when the Warriors were basically pretty much locked to make the finals. At that point in time, I was significantly more scared of Jimmy Butler making the finals and the Heat than Jason Tatum and the Celtics, because Jimmy Butler, to me, is just a scarier player than Jason Tatum. That's it. So I got to go with, like, my honest, like, sometimes you kind of just got to go with, like, what are you intuitively feeling watching these games? And I was just like, Jimmy Butler and the Heat, like last year you could watch, he nearly closed out those Celtics going on an insane run in Game 7, right? I was just like, please don't let this man get to the finals and play the Warriors. I was looking at the Celtics as basically like, these kids, they could just fall apart. And they did. Now, this year Jimmy Butler did make it to the finals and wasn't great. That happens too. But the last time he was in the finals, he did play great. So it's kind of like, overall, I just think he's been more impressive than Jason Tatum. But I think that Jason Tatum's like the newer guy, and he's up and coming, and he's got more noticeable talent, basically, which is why, whereas Jimmy Butler is kind of just like a get it done somehow kind of a player. So I think it's easy to believe that, maybe it's too close to call past a certain point. We'll call Mihawk KD. LeBron is obviously Whitebeard. Jimmy Butler, I think is... No, he's not Blackbeard. I feel like he's Blackbeard, though, because, like, people don't think about him, and then he shows up and, like, fucks shit up. You know what I mean? Like, he's like that... He's the dark horse, right? And that's what Blackbeard is. Dino Spinks says Whitebeard never cared. LBJ has been chasing MJ his whole life. Yeah, I would agree that's the big difference. But in my analogy, Ace was the NBA Finals trophy, and Whitebeard, LeBron definitely cared about that, just like Whitebeard definitely cared about that. Grims09 says Ace's D-Rose. That's hilarious. Reichi, thanks for the 5. No, I didn't want... I was just looking for a normal comment. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that you had to, like, donate again. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm just going to make you a moderator so I can catch your comments more easily. My mistake. Although, if you're a member, then, already you can do that. But you're a moderator now, so I'm sorry. That's my only way of saying sorry. My mistake. Rachel, thanks for the 5. I said week 1 of the month off. How is the withdrawal going? And I never thought I would learn about basketball from One Piece YouTuber. I wouldn't say this is the best place to learn, because I am making fun of these guys a little bit too. But I would say, if you know nothing about basketball, just know that Nikola Jokic is considered by many to be the best player in the world at this point. And that's pretty much all you need to know, and the Nuggets won the finals. Jason Tatum is who? Jason Tatum is who? I feel like Jason Tatum is Kid. No, we already said that Ja Morant's Kid. I feel like Jason Tatum's like Law? Because I think he's never going to be the best, but like... Nah, I don't know who the fuck Jason Tatum is. I think Jason Tatum's Sabo. Oh, I already had him as Sabo. That's hilarious. And that was as a joke. I think Jason Tatum is Sabo. Reason being, I just feel like he's, people want him to be really good. That's what I'll say. People want him to be really good. People want him to be like number 1, number 2 guy in the NBA. That's how people feel about Jason Tatum right now. That's how Sabo is. But he's yet to take the leap. I feel like Jason Tatum fits perfectly with Sabo. Archangel says JT is buggy. No, we're not going to do him like that. And then at 10 is Embiid, and Embiid is Green Bull. A guy that many people hyped at one point. As you recall, when he took out King and Queen, there was insane Green Bull hype going on. And then a few things played out, and we kind of realized that he's not that guy. This is hilarious. I didn't even realize I had Embiid rated as Embiid. That's so funny. All right. So this is our top 10. I think this is a pretty good top 10. I think it's better than the one that I posted on Twitter. I think this is about right. I think I could have given Kawhi someone else. Maybe not Big Mom, but it seems right. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. Where does this season rank in overall excitement? Dude, I didn't watch most of this season, so I can only speak on the playoffs. I thought that this was a great playoffs, except for the finals. I don't think the finals was that good. And that's why and I rate the finals really high. You can have a bad playoffs and a great finals, and I think that kind of sticks more in people's heads. That's why it's a really hard one to rate. I do think that this is an interesting era of the NBA to enter, just because nobody knows how the next few years are going to play out or who's really going to establish themselves, because there's kind of a changing of the guard going, right? Last year the Warriors won. Is something like that going to happen again? Like, do the Warriors have one more run in them? Does LeBron, if he retools or something, does he have another run in him? Could the Suns be better next year? Like, could KD sneak in there? Or is it time for, like, Jokic, Giannis, maybe Luka next year, maybe the Celtics to finally put it together? So it's an interesting era, but I hope that we do get some sort of continuing storylines. I don't think that the NBA is as interesting when it's kind of just like, oh, fuck it, this year. Like, if it's like the Nuggets are really good this year, but then, like, the next 2-3 years they're just bad, or, like, the Bucks are just bad and underperform the next 2-3 years, but, like, maybe the Grizzlies are randomly good one year, maybe the, like, fucking, like, Celtics are good one year and then fall off again. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of seeing the Heat in the finals as much as I've talked up Jimmy Butler. To me, I think that good storylines can really only develop when, like, you get consistent sort of rivalries going or consistent players vying for dominance. I think that's part of what made, it's part of what makes certain eras of basketball, like, the 80s were considered so exciting because it was the Lakers, Celtics, Bird, Magic era, right? You want the 90s, obviously, because you had Jordan versus everyone. 2010s, the story of that was basically LeBron versus everyone. Every year LeBron's making it to the finals. Who's he up against? Can he take him down? Like, I think having a level... I'm not saying it's fun if, like, if a boring team is winning every year, like if you had an era where the Spurs just win every single year, that's not fun. But generally, I think that in sports, in any sports that I've ever followed, any competition, you want to have some level of consistent storyline and some sort of, like, dominant players. Not, like, winning everything necessarily, but you want to see some level of consistency in the best players being able to go at it regularly. Because that's what makes it feel like you're in a sort of historic era where special things are happening. If it's an era where, like, feels like it's a kind of a crapshoot and, like, it seems like we've got a great player on, like, even, I'm not a huge Giannis fan, but I thought it was exciting when Giannis won in 2021 because it was like, this could be the start of something new. Then he underperforms this year, right? It's like, if he, if teams have kind of figured him out and we don't really see Giannis in the finals again, I think that'd be very disappointing, So I hope to see some level of consistency in terms of who's good. Billy Bob says 2000s, it was Kobe versus Duncan. I don't know enough about the 2000s, but I would just say, like, my understanding of the 2000s, and even just looking back on it, it looked to me like that was an era where there was a significant mix of who's on top, right? You had the Lakers to start it off, in terms of the Shaq Kobe Lakers, obviously, but then after that, it seems like, then the Lakers were bad for a while. Spurs won a couple, Heat won one, right? Celtics popped up, the Pistons won one, the Celtics obviously came up. The Lakers won 2 in a row, right, to close out the decade, right? But my understanding was that was kind of an era where there was I kind of hope we don't get an era like that again, is basically what I'm saying. Like, I want to see consistent greatness, right? Like, either a consistent great rivalry like a Magic Bird type thing, LeBron Warriors or something like that, or just like an all-time great player. Like if Luka could turn into like the next MJ or something like that, which is obviously asking for too much. But if we see another transcendent player, that's what I kind of hope for. That's it. JWP says Kobe and Duncan both had 5 rings, LMAO. Yeah, but I mean, that was over time, you know? Like, the Spurs won one in the 90s and then one in the 2010s, and like, Kobe won like his first 3 with Shaq, which was like early in the 2000s, you know? My understanding, just looking back at the 2000s, it's like, it was a very big mix of lots of different teams involved there, right? Whereas like 2010s, you can say it pretty clearly, it's like, yeah, that was just the decade that it was LeBron versus somebody else in the finals every single year, and that was just the narrative. LeBron versus this person. 90s is just like, yeah, that was Jordan's era. 80s, it's like, yeah, that was Magic and Bird's era, you know? I'm not trying to knock Kobe. I think that Kobe beating that Celtics team with, like, not a super team, just, like, a solid team, I think that's really impressive. And winning 2 in a row with, with a not stacked team, necessarily, I think that's really, really impressive. I'm just saying that the 2000s, no matter how I look at it, I'm not like, oh, Kobe just ruled that era or anything. JWP, thanks, and this is the last comment. The Spurs had 3 championships from 2003 to 2007. I guess part of it is I think that my understanding of the Spurs is that that's largely, like, lots of times a team effort rather than, like, obviously Tim Duncan, all-time great, but it's not quite the same as, like, you know, the Bulls, like Jordan winning 3 in a row or something like that, you know. That's all I got to say. All right. I'm going to call it here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This was a fun stream. I enjoyed doing this variety stream. Keep in mind, for those of you who don't know what's coming up, Mondays will always be One Piece. Thursdays, I might do One Piece or a mix of One Piece and something else, basically. Kind of like this was, where we got a nice rundown of the NBA in One Piece terms. If you don't know anything about the NBA, now you guys kind of got a picture of it. But, yeah. All right, guys. I'll talk to you all later. Delaround1 says, hating on Paul Gasol here. There's like, this is the crazy thing about sports, is like, especially team sports, it's so hard. Like, I'm saying something I feel like I've said something to hurt Kobe fans. I'm saying something to appease Kobe fans, right? As soon as I say that, somebody's popping out of the woodworks being like, oh, now you're hating on Paul Gasol. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, what do I, there's always going to be somebody slighted anytime you're praising, you know, a certain player or something like that in sports. It's like, yeah, Jordan was great in the 90s. He won all those, you know, he won 6 championships and stuff. It's like, oh, you're fucking hating on Scottie Pippen. I'm like, it's not what I meant. It's not what I meant. All right, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.